This month on In the Life, 524,000 and counting.
They want every gay person in the world to disappear.
High anxiety.
If you associate sex and crystal meth, 9 times out of 10, you're not even gonna think about a condom.
And vulnerable youth.
When you don't feel stable, it's like you can't function in the world.
All this and more on America's gay and lesbian news magazine, In the Life.
In the Life is funded in part by the H. Van Ameringen Foundation. Additional support provided by the Ford Foundation and these funders, and the annual support of In the Life members like you.
Welcome to In the Life. I'm Sharon Gless. In March 1983, the headline of a Manhattan gay newspaper read, 1,112 and counting, sounding an alarm to the gay community about the number of people who had already fallen victim to AIDS in the United States in the first 2 years of the epidemic. We are embarking on the 25th year of AIDS in America. The number of lives lost is now reaching over 500,000 people. Tonight, we explore just how far we've come in the war against AIDS.
Bringing our dead to your door, we won't take it anymore. Bringing our dead to your door, we won't take it anymore.
We're still talking about a deadly, incurable, sexually transmissible disease, but most Americans think it's no longer a problem.
Being crystal clear.
I began using crystal meth in July of 2002. That was the first night I barebacked in a group scene.
And LGBT kids having sex to survive.
If I had to walk in the middle of the street with a G-string and a bra on just to make money, I could not come back unless I had money.
In the early 1980s, a deadly disease surfaced in the United States, quickly and mysteriously killing gay men. It began what many referred to as the plague years. In the beginning, there was a sense of urgency behind the safe sex campaign. But now, 25 years later, the perception of crisis has passed. Growing numbers of gay men no longer feel compelled to practice safe sex, despite alarming statistics. After many years of decline, the number of new HIV cases among gay men has increased every year between 2000 and 2003. Are the current approaches by the government confronting this reality? Tonight, an in-depth look at the state of AIDS.
New York City is the epicenter of the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the United States. The epidemic really started here 25 years ago. Today, we have the most mature HIV epidemic in this country and perhaps in the Western world.
Before people knew exactly what it was, people were getting sick. They were numbered. This is case number 1, case number 2, and I happen to have a friend who happened to be case number 78.
James Neal, Jerry, John.
At that point, there was no AZT, none of the drugs that were around now. The lesions were very visible on a lot of people. You avoided them. You treated, they were like lepers. You didn't know whether you would catch the disease early on by touching them or being close to them. So people avoided them. I avoided them.
Arrested immediately with no warrant.
Larry Kramer refers to it often that we were fighting a war and nobody knew there was a war on.
It's beyond tragic. Equally tragic is that nobody reports it as this kind of a war that is lost.
What happened around the early days of AIDS is that the people who were leaders or would be leaders were too busy taking care of people who were sick and dying, and What ended up happening was sometime in the late 80s, early 90s, that there were a lot of young people around who weren't as affected by HIV. And there was no community for them to join to because everybody was too busy taking care of dying people.
People didn't know about how contagious the disease really was or not, you know, at that point. So there was a great fear. There were a lot of candlelight vigils and marches and demonstrations. Those I went to, and they were very sad because there you are walking, trying to help people and knowing that all these people are dying.
We won't take it anymore. Bring our dead to your door. We won't take it anymore. Bringing our dead to your door. We won't take it anymore.
The government's apathy in the face of the fast-developing AIDS crisis angered and galvanized the gay community. Outspoken radical groups, such as ACT UP, aggressively challenged the inaction of the government and the medical establishment.
Bring your dead to your door. Healthcare is a right. Healthcare is a right.
That was one of the reasons for ACT UP. The government wasn't doing anything. There was a great denial from the White House. That was the Reagan administration. And that's, again, why organizations like GMHC originally started, because there was no help, and they had to create their own help.
When we started GMHC, people came to us and said, I can do this. Is it any use? I'm a lawyer. Can I help people with wills? I'm a social worker. Can I help with patients? That's how GMH started. It became an agglomeration of people coming to us. We had someone gave us free office space. Somebody says, let's put out a newsletter, and we wrote little articles. It was people, it was Mickey and Judy putting on a show. And quite frankly, that's all ACT UP ever was.
We must act up, fight back, fight AIDS.
There was great arrogance, I think, in the medical community in the late 60s, 70s, and early 80s, thinking that we had conquered most infectious diseases, or would very shortly. And I think we got our comeuppance in several different ways. You know, HIV is one of them. In fact, had to deal with an administration under Ronald Reagan who ignored it for a long time, until some of his wife's gay friends, you know, got on her and she got on him. And that took a long time. So when I watch all these younger people talking about what a great president Ronald Reagan was, and you know, these kids weren't even born when he was president, and we remember what it was like to be ignored as literally thousands of gay men were sick and dying.
"25 years into the epidemic, there still is a fair amount of secrecy and shame. The stigma associated with HIV and AIDS, I think, is still very much present, and it has a direct effect on people's behavior. In New York, we've had a cumulative total of 90,000 folks who are diagnosed with HIV, and we think that about 20,000 more people are infected but don't know it. And obviously that's of great concern to us, because most of them are practicing risky behaviors because they're infected. It's likely that they will continue to practice risky behaviors, but they aren't aware that they're positive and they're potentially spreading virus.
Part of what's happening is that America in general is bored with AIDS, which is unfortunate. We're still talking about a deadly, incurable, sexually transmissible disease, but most Americans think it's no longer a problem.
The message that's gotten out of there is we've fixed it, we've cured it. And that's the message that's out in the general population. It's all taken care of, right? I hear that from straight people I run into all the time, and gay people who don't live within the community that's most affected. It's done, it's fixed, right?
The fact is that people are living longer. They're not dying shortly after diagnosis. We have a pretty good arsenal of medicines that people are taking now to keep themselves healthy on HIV. The problem is that with the ever-expanding pool of people who are positive, it sometimes tends to confound our prevention efforts, and that we have all these folks who are feeling good again, they're getting back and living their lives, which we absolutely want them to do, but we want them to stay safe too.
There's less of a prevention message out there than ever before. 15 years ago, you couldn't go in a gay bar without that big bowl of condoms right in the foyer, right up at the front, and safe sex posters. Someone couldn't run a gay establishment without not just paying some minor lip service or some wall space to a prevention message.
There are certain restrictions put on our funding by the United States Congress. One of them, which specifically says that federal funds cannot be used to directly promote sexual activity, whether that's homosexual or heterosexual.
We will double federal funding for abstinence programs so schools can teach this fact of life. Abstinence for young people is the only certain way to avoid sexually transmitted diseases.
In 2004, President Bush, in response to the AIDS epidemic, called for an emphasis on abstinence-only education and doubled the funding for abstinence-only programs. Many experts believe this approach misses the mark and fails to realistically confront the prevention issue.
There's nothing wrong with abstinence. That should be part of the menu of choices that are available to people. But to tell adults who have their own lives and have their own needs and desires that they shouldn't have sex anymore doesn't really resonate with me.
Many millions of dollars have been moved to abstinence-only programs. Groups that have no track record and don't know how to deliver care are getting money when groups that have a track record and do know how to deliver care but won't give this false, scientifically invalid, abstinence-only message, they get defunded.
Abstinence probably works very well for a handful of people, but to fund any program where that is the only acceptable message or even the central message of the program, that's not just draconian, that's cruel, and that's going to result in deaths.
We've had the Bush administration taking off government-paid public health websites information about condoms as a way to stop sexually transmitted diseases or unintended pregnancy because the religious right would rather just talk about sexual abstinence.
What is abstinence-only education? It is based on fear. This administration, I think, believes that the only way you can stop people from getting infected with HIV is to create fear.
It's almost as if hiding our heads in the sand would be a better thing to do than to try to understand what's going on and to help people stop the transmission of a disease that in many cases can be deadly.
There is a burnout with prevention messages. And I think, you know, I've used the example before of having watched people during the bombings in Yugoslavia, you know, in Kosovo, and seeing a picture after 4 or 5 days of these women who were running out to buy bread in the middle of all of these bombs going off. And, you know, you realize that in the middle of a war, eventually you get acclimated to the terror. And you have to go on with your life. And I think that people have done that with HIV, and they have a tremendous amount of denial.
I think there is a sympathy and anger that the younger generation, because they haven't seen or witnessed the actual disease at its maximum, they're being careless, being in denial. Well, if I get it, I can get drugs and not have to worry about it. And that's not true.
It's not easy taking these pills, and it's not easy watching after your health. It's not so rosy as you may think it is. We fought so hard, and so many people died in vain so that we could get these drugs, and for everybody to go back and lead the same kind of life we led before is incomprehensible to me.
I'm not sure if the worst is behind us. I hope so. I'm a little bit cautious at present to be too optimistic about that.
This thing between your legs is a lethal weapon if you are HIV positive. It can murder other people. You are walking around with a pistol, with a gun, and we have to realize that.
I didn't like or want to use condoms, but if I wanted to have sex, I knew I had to, because that's the only way I could protect myself. Fortunately, I think it may have saved my life.
If you give a clear, focused message, use a condom for intercourse every time, and that's it. That's your message, that's what you say. You decrease HIV infections by, 99%, and we'll deal with the rest.
A dangerous drug is sweeping the country, spreading quickly into large cities, small towns, and rural areas, infiltrating all segments of society. The culprit is methamphetamine, known as crystal meth. It's cheap, easily accessible, and extremely addictive. Its use in the gay community is particularly alarming because it dramatically increases the risk of contracting HIV. Tonight, we hear the chilling stories of 4 men who intimately know the highs and heartaches of crystal meth.
I'd start on Thursday night and, go to work high on Friday, Monday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe high on Monday, maybe high on Tuesday, maybe crashing on Tuesday, maybe sleeping through work Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. I had no idea this was out here for me. No idea. The worst thing I heard about crystal was that it was, it's a nasty drug and it's bad, and it's, it's for the bad boys. And I'm like, ooh, I want to be bad.
My dad literally, tried to beat the homosexuality out of me for many years as a young kid. And you have all these people around you telling you that who you are can be changed or it needs to be corrected. And this really starts giving you, I think, a warped idea of your worth. So you go into a community which you think is going to be very welcoming, but you go into it and you realize that your hair isn't right. Your body doesn't look the way it's supposed to look. You don't hang out with the right people. You're not going to the right clubs, and you feel really lost. So you latch on to anything that gives you some sort of worth. And people there are, doing drugs, and you kind of think that, maybe you have to do it as well to have fun.
Oh, you felt so powerful, you instantly felt good about yourself. You felt confident, and everything was hot, oh, it's great. It's a fabulous drug. I mean, you feel, great, and no matter how depressed you are, or how miserable you are, or how ugly the guys you are with, or how depressing your situation is, you'll feel good by default.
Makes you feel invincible, makes you feel like you're on top of the world, makes you feel all of your inhibitions are stripped away.
You're just numb to all the pain. Anything that's bugging you, any insecurity, that all just is washed away. I never did just one hit. I would start off with 2 hits. I always did a lot more than most people would do. Put it in front of me and give me a shovel.
Crystal, also known as crystal methamphetamine, is a psychostimulant. It's speed. Some of the street names for it are crank, redneck cocaine. It's called redneck cocaine because it's cheap. It's a really good drug if you don't have a lot of money. For $40, you can be high for 3 days.
Everybody would get all wound up, get all, all tweaked, and then go to these sex clubs. And I can remember going with a friend of mine who'd never been there before and was feeling really uncomfortable. And I just thought this was perfectly normal. And these parties would go on all night, most of the next day, and could go on for a couple of days.
Crystal also makes somebody very, 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 very horny. And so 1 partner, 2 partners, 3 partners, 4 partners is not enough. Sex needs to be constant and endless.
It's hot. The possibilities are endless. And you look around and you're hungry for it and you want that guy and you like sex, sex. Then you're on to the next person. Sex, sex. You want the best experience possible. And you're forever chasing that.
With crystal methamphetamine, it causes a huge increase in dopamine levels, much more than cocaine.
Crystal affects the brain. It affects the release of a neurotransmitter called dopamine. This is a pleasure neurotransmitter. So it makes users feel on top of the world because so much dopamine is being released in their brain.
It has a big affinity for brain tissue as opposed to cocaine, so it really tends to penetrate deep into the nervous system.
Somebody's high on crystal meth, they don't feel lonely. They don't feel depressed. They feel like they're the most beautiful, most hot, most amazing thing in the world. So when somebody's starting to come down from the high, somebody who's depressed to begin with, that depression and those feelings of loneliness get exacerbated. What's the quick and easy approach? The quick and easy approach is to do more crystal. And so that's how the cycle begins.
I went to a club and I had mixed crystal with GHB. I was dancing with this really beautiful, gorgeous Latin boy. And all of a sudden I just remember feeling like the entire world had fallen. Can't exactly explain it. It's like the roof fell on top of me, and so I fell down with it. My friends saw that, and of course you don't want to make a scene in front of everyone, so they dragged me out of the club, and then when they finally brought me into my friend's apartment, that's when they told me that I'd stopped breathing. They just punched my chest a bunch of times, and then eventually I started breathing again. And they were just looking at me like, are you okay? And then the next sentence out of my mouth is, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, give me a bump. I need to wake up.
After doing this, you know, over and over for a period of time, the crash you get from crystal meth is, I mean, just unbelievable. It's just like being thrown down into this black hole after you're way up in Oz.
I had started to see shadow people around me. I had started to have horrible nightmares at night. I had started to have my nightmares during the day when my eyes would be open. I wouldn't even have to be sleeping. I started seeing images of me killing other people, slashing their throats. I couldn't sleep anymore because I was too scared to sleep. I didn't want to stay awake because I'd hear more voices.
I would trash the house. I would just be completely irrational. I had met somebody, crystal meth, broke up the relationship. I didn't want it to break up. I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to be said to me that it was over. And he said it that day. I left the house. I went right to get crystal. I went right to the bathhouse. And I was there for 2 days. If you associate sex and crystal meth, 9 times out of 10, you're not even gonna think about a condom.
Pretty much by the time 12 or 1 a.m. passes by, basically as you go into the hours of the morning, people are all on crystal, and for the most part, all barebacking. What are you doing? You know, I'm negative. And everyone in the club at the time it was just a very dumb thing. It was very awkward because it's like, hello, welcome to the club. You know, we're all positive pretty much. You know, it's like catcher's call. You know, there's no lifeguard on duty. And I just realized I just was playing the odds game. I was really fooling myself.
After I did this risky behavior and I got clean and sober for a period of time, I went and was tested. And I would just remember praying, God, please don't let me be positive.
When I was going to get my HIV test, I was absolutely just completely and totally scared because I did not use condoms one single time, and I had nothing but unprotected sex.
It used to be that we just had the condom code. That was the first prevention message. Use a condom every time. We've gotten more sophisticated about that now and knowing that we need to tailor prevention messages to specific communities. But still, with crystal now, we face a new challenge in HIV prevention specifically because crystal and HIV go together.
There is a direct immunological effect of crystal methamphetamine on the immune system. You actually couple this with that intense change in behavior and hypersexuality and unsafe sex, and it just makes it so ripe, and that's why I think we see such efficiency of transmission.
Well, the test came back I was positive. That whole weekend, I just, you know, did coke, drank. All I cared about was escaping and doing my drug.
You have a higher chance of just doing any kind of risky behavior in general if you're on crystal. I myself did that all the time. I still to this day have no idea how I stayed negative. I really don't.
Within 2 months, after going to a sex club for quite a few times, I know I was infected with HIV. Just within 2 months, you know, all these lines I'd made for myself, you know, were instantly crossed.
We're talking about a specific subset of gay men. Not every gay man in the United States is using crystal. Not every gay man in the United States is having anonymous sex. Not every gay man in the United States is going online and cruising for sex with people he doesn't know. But there is a subset of men who are.
So when you look at a group of people who's been stigmatized in our culture, and then you add on 25 years of the AIDS crisis, that's a powerful burden. And crystal kind of wipes all those concerns away.
All of our young gay men, or even not so young gay men, that are actually recently infected with HIV, in almost all of our cases, it has been attributable to crystal methamphetamine. So, you know, if that isn't an epidemic, I don't really know what is.
I was introduced to the intravenous aspect of it. 4, 5 injections a day. I lost my job was back in February of 2005. Things sort of spiraled downward ever since.
You know, I called my mom to tell her why I defaulted on a student loan. And she was like, because I don't talk to her about this. She's very mad that I'm gay, and I told her that I was an addict 2 years ago, and she was like, oh, you're hurting me with that, you're hurting me, and I called her 2 days ago and told her, and she's like, so are you using the drugs? You know, which is very weird for her to hear her say, you know, and I say, she says, I'll take that as a yes. And she goes, you're so much smarter than this. It's true, but is it?
Today is day 47 of my recovery. It has been a long 47 days. Here I sit telling this story from not only the perspective of, you know, the recent history in 2005, but this is the second time I've done this. And I looked at my family and I said, I won't make it a third time. I can't do this again. I'm facing rebuilding my whole life again now.
So what day I went down the road for me? My sense of self back, my sense of normality back.
You are about to meet some young people who rarely make an appearance on TV. They're the homeless LGBT youth leading precarious lives on the streets of New York and LA. There are almost 1 million homeless teens in America. Almost half are from the LGBT community. Many have been thrown out of their own homes or escaped abusive foster homes. They often enter a world of survival sex as they struggle to make a living. But it is there, on the streets, where 20,000 young people under 21 are infected with HIV each year.
My mother's very religious, so she don't believe in gayism and the whole gay role, and it's just wrong. So she kicked me out of her house, and I had no place to go, so I was just staying from place to place, which is with either my ex-girlfriend's house or different other houses, and I would sometimes just starve and stuff. It was real hard. A lot of things happened.
On the streets, these young people face a lot of high-risk behaviors.
You know, they have to survive, that's first and foremost. And in order to survive, there's a lot of things they might do, and one of those things would be survival sex.
I see a lot of kids going to get money, and to where they stay a lot is it's called the Stroh. It's a place in the village where a lot of kids go prostitute themselves so they can get money for food to eat or a place to stay.
So this is our mobile unit, and we're on our way, and we're on Christopher Street. And it's busy. It's definitely busy tonight. But we're ready to start delivering services, so we're gonna start looking for parking. And it's definitely gonna be one of them nights. A lot of them are out there just, you know, being out there and doing different kinds of drugs, and then they wind up selling themselves. And so what that means is that HOT provides them a way of keeping their health healthy, provides them with condoms, safety, information, and other agencies that'll help them.
All right.
Have fun.
Now I'm just heading down to the pier. Basically what's in the bag is just condoms and lubrication. I mean, it should be a way for people to help them self-prevent against HIV, AIDS, and all the other STDs. But these kids don't care. As long as it's flavored and lubricated, it's like candy to them. So that's what I'm basically handing out, candy. I'm just giving condoms, girl. Huh? Missing, take some condoms. It's lubrication and stuff like that.
You told you, I told you, no. Did Marky tell you I said hi?
Yeah, like counting.
Can I?
Yeah, you can take as much as you like.
Sure will. Oh, this one's cute, peach.
Peach, you know, it tastes delicious
It sure
too.
do.
I don't know if it tastes good.
Wow, look, you have banana, you have cool mint.
And I have caramel cream and watermelon and all this other stuff.
Wow.
Would y'all like some condoms and lubrication?
Oh, yes, condoms. Yes.
Condoms.
That's so silly. Let me see.
Hold on.
What's that?
Condoms and lubrication and a party. Look, we get a free party. From when I came out, I mean, the kids out here just got younger and younger. They're starting at ages 11 just coming down here. So, I mean, each year I think the age range gets lower and lower.
Actually, a lot of my friends I know that they were positive. They may have become HIV positive because of all the things that they went through, like as far as being in the streets, and when you're hungry, you'll do anything to eat.
Even when I'm in the street with this mobile unit, and they may be HIV positive and homeless, it's not their priority. Their priority is to eat. Their priority is to take a shower. Priority is to just connect. It's not a priority for them what we think is a priority to them.
There is also the never-ending stream of runaways who come to Hollywood each year. Quickly, they enter the worlds of prostitution, pornography, and substance abuse. And typically, these young people do not expect or seek out health care.
Well, living at home was hard though because my dad was a drug lord and my mama got killed when I was young. I came from the foster care system. This guy came up to me, he was like, hey, you wanna come to LA with me? And I was like, yeah, and we was gonna come down here for like LA Pride. So I was like, I wanna come, so I did it. And I didn't have no remorse, I just did it because I just wanted to see, I wanted to like see the world.
I wanted to become an actress. What brought me to California as a star opportunity? I'm one of what you would call God's unique individuals. Intersexed.
I got in a fight with my mom, so I left. She says I can't come back to learn responsibility.
I ran away from home early on because the gay, you know, the whole gay HIV issue, my mother was a little bit afraid of those things, so I went and left, and I experienced all those things out here.
The kids know that I'm coming with a pizza. They expect that I bring them pizza and soap and a toothbrush and a comb in a hygiene kit. And I always come here at least 3 times a week. This is something that I do 3 times a week, yeah. At 3 o'clock, to this stop, that there is a bus, this yellow school bus type of thing that picks them up and takes them to the shelter far away. Otherwise, they will stay sleeping, here. And the worst thing about it is that if they stay, they're gonna get preyed on for sex, and they can get HIV and other things. And that day, one day can be a disastrous day for them, because that might be the day that they can get HIV. So even if it is 2 days out of the week that they are not staying here to be preyed on, that makes a difference in the long run. Pizza, hygiene kids. Center. I'm gonna be around here too tomorrow, so
what time?
Same time.
Oh.
Okay. They're going to go to a shelter right now with those older people. Some of them, they can take advantage of them. If they could have been, a lot of them could have been 16, 17, 15, and that's why issues happen.
I'm gonna meet you tomorrow.
Okay.
Round 1 at the center?
Yeah, meet me around tomorrow at the same time. Okay. I've known him for at least a year. They always get the same stuff. I cannot push them to get help or to make that change, but when they're ready, they'll let you know, because we already have that report. And if he's willing to do that tomorrow, I will be there for him.
First day I got here, I just got a bite to eat, walked around aimlessly for about a week, but I never got involved because I was so scared of the area of downtown. I was like, I gotta get out of here.
Right, when I got here with the guy, we was hanging out together, we went to Pride, and I was looking for him, and out of nowhere, he just disappeared. So I was like already stuck, but at that same time, I was like, pretty much like, well, that's the part about living on the streets, People tell you they're gonna do this for you, but they'll disappear, after they get what they want from you.
I left home when I was 14 years old. You have to learn street smarts very quickly. If you don't, you're not gonna survive out here. And these centers and stuff like that are only open a few hours a day.
There's a lot of people out there who are going to take advantage of someone, even if it's for a night.
If anybody has an addiction on this boulevard, I swear, $10 will get you whoever you wanted.
I'll be walking with them, and I totally see the cars pulling over and just making passes at them. And I cannot say anything, I just hand them out whatever they need, obviously, condoms and so on and so forth. And I go ahead and do my business, and they do their business too, and I will see them the next day until they're ready to make that change and to get help.
We would pretty much go hang in front of the porno shops. People would look at us, and then we'll be like, if they give us the look, then we're like, okay, it's okay, and then we just go somewhere, and then, and we get money,
How old were you?
I was 14.
It's almost like you're forced into making money for someone else, and you're not getting a profit out of it, meaning whenever you're on call, basically. Like, if you were the gorilla pimp, basically, I would have to do whatever you told me to do to make that money, meaning if I had to walk in the middle of the street with a G-string and a bra on, with a full beard, just to make money, I could not come back unless I had money.
They deserve better, because this country do have a lot to offer, and it's not reaching them. And that's something that I see that I don't have the answer for it, but it's a problem that we have. And I don't know how to fix it, but we gotta come up with options for them.
Someone got me drunk, really, really drunk, and raped me and sent me right up under, this used to be a bank right here on Orange, Mansfield it is. There used to be a little gate there. I was laying there in my own urine and vomit and wet clothes, and it was raining. There was nothing I could do about it. That's when I knew I needed help,
It's a no-win situation for them. It's kind of, they have to choose between which exploitation they'd like better. And most of them feel that if they're gonna be exploited or abused, that they'd rather be out on the streets where at least there are no rules.
I got gay bashed by my neighbors. They started throwing rocks, and then they started chasing us. And we just ran, and then, I called the cops. They came, but they couldn't do anything. They didn't do anything.
The transgender kids have it much worse because their options are fewer. They're easy prey for law enforcement. They're easy prey for people who just, want to beat up someone to have a good time. Your regular, shall we say, gay and lesbian kids can kind of pass. You can't really tell most of the time they're gay or lesbian, so then they're just your regular street kid. They're prey to less harassment. But the transgender kids just stand out. And what happens with them is that their options are so limited that a life of prostitution until they're no longer of appealing age is pretty much all they can do.
¿Cuál es tu nombre completo?
Some salad. That's good because it's some spaghetti. I don't know what is this, but it looks like vegetables. And that's it. We're all set to figure it out. Yes, I will be there. I told you already that I'm gonna be there, don't worry. Yes, yes. I was gonna say, don't call me. He already called me 3 times if I'm gonna bring him the bus tokens and some food. But I understand, that they looking forward to that, so.
I'm sending him to a shelter right now, and they're telling me that they've been to that shelter already, and they cannot go there because they don't have ID. They're undocumented. He's gonna be sleeping on the freeway tonight. That's where he's been sleeping for the last week. And same case with this other one. They don't have ID. The shelters won't take him, and they're young. He's only 19. He's been on the street for 2 years. Why? Because of the ID that they don't have. I find that to be really hard and stressful because my hands are tied. They are. I can only do so much. I wish I could make him an ID right now so he doesn't have to be sleeping on the street, but I can't. It's really painful. It really is. If they have a medical necessity, I send them to the mobile unit where they can get HIV tested, they can get syphilis tested, gonorrhea, chlamydia, and other STDs that are very, 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 very common among this population of youth in downtown LA.
I'm going on 3 years having HIV right now, and it's been hard. Out of 100 people, 98 probably have it, and probably 50 of them don't even know they have it, so they just keep infecting each other. I mean, we're hurting each other, that's all we know. And I would never want to do that to someone else because I would never want someone to have to tell their mother the way I told mine. I cried. My mother didn't cry. I cried.
They're hungry and they need clothing and they need a place to go to sleep and they need the money. And if anybody's in that position, anybody will do anything to survive. Yeah.
When I get here in LA, I was, telling God why I'll be like right here. I think it was better in my country. But it's like I was, sleeping in the street, everybody looking at you, and I was young, And it's kind of hard to remember either, too, because I don't want to remember all that.
Yeah.
I used to go to the Burger King when I don't have nothing to eat, so I just drink soda, the machine that are outside. So I just get a cup from the trash can and get soda. That's the only thing that I ate.
If you could see yourself in 5 years, where would you like to be?
To finish school, I'm interested in education and human services.
I want to go back to Texas. Yeah.
Trying to go to college, to East LA College.
Kind of more like an artistic future.
To study music, which is my passion.
I want to do my own clothing line, which, I do stuff like this, the pants, the pink.
What I dream of? I'm sorry, this may seem like a short thing, but I dream of just, waking up healthy tomorrow. Seriously, that's the best dream I could possibly have. Waking up healthy, still knowing that I still have those 10 friends maybe out of all the hundreds I've met over the years,
In this month's Reel to Reel, In the Life goes behind the scenes of the Haitian documentary Of Men and Gods. This provocative film explores the nature of homosexuality within the context of voodoo, under the shadow of AIDS. Filmmakers Anne Lecault and Laurence Magloire have made a remarkable film about homosexuality and the religion of voodoo in Haiti.
Actuellement, n'importe où là, c'est là que je cherche la vie, je toujours travaille dans la rue. Je pas faire comme.
Et vous dites combien de garçons qu'on peut pas jouer?
Je dis mal vivre. Pas mal vivre. Ou mon ou parler pas qui m'a occupé.
Masisi. Masisi Kaleko. Gado Masisi monsieur.
Alors là, il y a mon pas Masisi. Masisi sale.
Comme je suis père de famille, je fais Masisi longtemps. Je fais Masisi longtemps. Mais je fais Masisi, je fais Masisi. Honneur, respect, mais Masisi là quand même, je fais Masisi comme et je fais Masisi pénitentiaire. Je suis calme, je suis là, je suis terre, je lever. Sous votre main, moi, chaque garçon, je caresse chaque garçon. Je suis au gant. À Chogoué, vous voyez.
Le vaudou, c'est l'une des religions les plus tolérantes. Si on parle d'Haïti et d'ailleurs. Et peut-être, c'est la raison pour laquelle que les gens, les homosexuels, se sentent plus à l'aise dans les temples vaudous. Parce que c'est la religion qui ne va pas dire à un homosexuel « je ne veux pas de vous ». Parce que nous, on ne croit pas en un jugement dernier. On ne croit pas si quelqu'un est homosexuel, le grand maître ou bon Dieu va le juger plus tard. C'est sa sexualité, on voit l'homme, on voit son âme, on voit le Hungan qu'il est.
C'est-à-dire qu'on voit Masisi. La fête, c'est moi. Et puis, les m'habiller, qu'on a dit, mettre des cheveux bagaille. Bon, ça va venir encore parce que moi, je viens au grand. Je connais si le problème, je viens frapper, je viens côté, je dis innocent. Relais d'antan pour moi, ou bien relégué pour moi, je viens faire travail pour moi, mes petites malades, pour faire un bouillon thé pour moi. C'est respect, ça me donne bien.
The voodoo religion is pervasive in Haitian society, providing a haven for gay and transgendered people who serve the goddess Urzuli.
Urzuli, she's the goddess of love, first. The love of femininity, of sexuality, of reproduction. She's about love, all about love.
Les gens, les initiés, ou certains initiés, disent souvent, s'ils sont devenus homos, c'est parce qu'ils ont été appelés par Urzuli.
Honnêtement, je fais une différence, c'est la loi qui gâte. Loi d'antan, exilé d'antan. Qui réclame depuis tout petit. Madame, ça toujours, c'est d'antan.
Comme si grand pile monde qui est homosexuel, il a parlé de c'est loi qui fait le ça. Mais moi-même, fils, moi connais, c'est pas vrai. Vous comprenez? Parce que loi lui-même, loi pas qu'à fond nègre, fait bagarre comme ça. Vous comprenez loi qui ça non moi là, so moi-même. Moi né comme ça.
Fritz Nair, this guy that in the film doesn't look gay. He just talked to us very openly the first time we saw him. And he agreed right away to be filmed. And when the film was released in Haiti, people found out then that he was gay. And he had a lot of problems again because they don't accept gays in Haiti.
L'homosexualité est tabou. Alors, pour s'excuser, il y a plein de gens qui disent, alors c'est Urzuli, c'est à cause d'Urzuli que j'ai le côté féminin de chez moi s'est développé. Ils ne sont pas homosexuels, mais c'est les enfants d'Urzuli. De l'autre côté, on dit Urzuli, c'est une maman qui accepte son enfant homosexuel, hétérosexuel. C'est pas la sexualité qui est importante, c'est l'homme qui est important.
Quand vous avez frappé, on m'a dit, on m'a dit, venez danser. Et puis après, si de ça finit, il faut de stock rasé. Parce que tout le monde c'est bravo obligé. Yo remè ouais ça. C'est ça que fait, ils ont gangan obligé de remettre un massissi. Et puis si on mambo obligé de remettre un massissi.
In voodoo ceremonies, a loa will possess a person who will then assume the gender of that loa.
On ne peut pas choisir si c'est une telle ou une telle qui va avoir telle ou telle trans. Et la personne, la trans, on ne peut pas dire c'est un homme, puisque c'est Ogun, par exemple, qui va venir. On choisit un tel va être en trans par Ogun, parce que c'est un homme. Non, non, non. Ogun vient dans la tête de n'importe qui, d'une femme. Et Ogun transforme cette femme en homme. Cette femme prête son corps de femme à un esprit masculin. Et du coup, il est devenu un homme viril, un homme vaillant qui est Ogun féminin. Et de même pour les hommes qui prêtent leur corps à Erzuli. Même les hommes les plus machos de la planète, les plus virils de la planète, et que tu tombes en transe par Erzuli, tu es devenu une femme. Tu prêtes ton corps à une femme et tu es devenu une femme.
The personality of the spirits comes to you. They love Erzuli because when Erzuli comes, they become even more women than women.
Voodoo proves to be more open in Haitian society in general, especially when it comes to HIV and AIDS.
Au capable de garçon bien frêle, bien important, et puis le bon maladie. Ça fait, oui, maladie sida, c'est une maladie qui est dans toute la rue. Pas tout pays, maladie sida existe.
Ça m'a un peu en pile. Mon papa m'a raconté une bagarre. Mon vini m'a raconté une bagarre. Important moi qui est capable. Mais l'on fait bagarre ça pas jamais utiliser. On va jamais calculer de capote là. Et l'on fait oh, donc les mon final, ça me va mettre capote, ça me fait là. Tu vous t'en prends, on va prendre tout prend.
When the film was finished, they started dying one by one. Blondine died. I really liked Blondine. And I had time to show him the film on his bed, like really dying, but he saw the film anyway. So I'm very glad that he saw it before he died. Then Fritz Nell died. This really was very bad for me when Fritz Nell, because Fritz Nell was a good man, but he never went to have a test and he just died of AIDS.
C'était très important pour moi. Bon, c'est la mystique, moi, lié.
It's such a poor country with so much problems. You have to turn to something to get a hold on life. And their joy is their friends and their families and their lois, their faith.
I'm Sharon Gless. From all of us at In the Life, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month.
In the Life is funded in part by the H. Van Ameringen Foundation. Additional support provided by the Ford Foundation and these funders, and the annual support of In the Life members like you.